There we go.
Thanks. I have to say got it so that I can move to another screen. So good afternoon, everyone. We're coming together virtually across Mi'kma'ki, the unceded, ancestral, and the current home of the Mi'kmaq Maliseet people. I'm privileged to be able to live and work on these lands, which are covered under the treaties of peace and friendship. We also recognize that there have been African, Nova Scotian, and Acadian communities here for 400 years. We acknowledge that we are all treaty people. And this is the last of our webinar series, the 8th that we've had, and we've been able to offer these webinars through funding and collaboration with Labor, Skills, and Immigration. We're recording this webinar and it will be available on the LNS Resource Hub for a short time for anyone who would like to revisit it or who missed it today. And we are really looking forward to hearing from Sue Smiley. And of course, Sue has been at our PD conference in the past and was a very popular presenter. She has had a fulfilling career teaching at the post-secondary level and private practice, specializing in grief and loss. And she has now shifted her focus from students and clients to supporting the people who support the people. So we're very looking forward to hearing Sue, and we're going to learn about helping the helpers, recognizing loss and restoring laughter. So I'm going to send it over to Sue to take over. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jane. When Marie invited me to do this webinar, I'd been teaching online for 18 months. Have you ever watched a bug in a bottle, trapped basically in a bottle, trying to escape the bounds of said bottle? And that's what I felt like teaching from my little home office here. Literacy Nova Scotia is the only organization that I would agree to get back in the bottle with for 90 minutes. I believe so much in the work that you all do. And with Literacy Nova Scotia, you are freeing people from the bottles of illiteracy. I didn't want breakout rooms or PowerPoint slides. I do have a few pictures to guide us. I wanted to have a vulnerable heart-to-heart coffee date with you all. I invite you to contact me at susmiley.com if you want more information on anything I share today. So grab a drink, let's get comfy, and let's connect. So to begin, please write down on your piece of paper 2 reasons why you wanted to sign up for this webinar. At the end of the information sharing, I want to have a conversation, a dialogue, not a monologue. I've been talking to myself for far too long. And if those reasons were not satisfied at the end, then I'll do my very best to respond to them then. So if you just take a minute right now, everybody, and just write down, why did you sign up? What was that about? What did you want to learn? What were the takeaways? Okay, so first, let's acknowledge the reason why we're not able to do this in person today. I have always been in person with you in the past. 2020 was supposed to be the year of, perfect vision. Instead, we entered into a pandemic. We experienced the largest mass shooting in Canada, the death of a snowbird, the loss of fishermen at sea, a missing toddler in Truro, and countless other losses that didn't make the news. Grief cannot be fixed, it can only be carried. And one of the many ways we carry it is through acknowledging it, holding space for the grief and each other. And as a province, as a country, as a world, we are weary. We did learn some new skills during the pandemic, which resulted in some very strange shortages, like yeast. And to go with this, the smell of freshly baked bread, I thought Dr. Strang said to fatten the curve. So we found comforts wherever we could find them. I renewed my love of blanket forts, and I bought one of those oversized fleece-lined hoodies. It was very woomy, And as an adult, if you haven't done a blanket fort lately, I highly recommend it. It gives such a sense of comfort and peace. Nova Scotia Strong became a unifying message for many people. However, for some people, it felt like one more thing we had to do. And I remember seeing a meme that said, yes, we are strong, but we need a break from proving it, please. We were grieving in isolation together. So seeing all those bumper stickers and flags and messages in windows really caused me or invited me to think about, what does it mean to be strong? So you don't have to look strong to be strong. And for me, being strong means being vulnerable, letting yourself to be seen. There is comfort there. Asking for and accepting help is a sign of strength. Being strong means messy grief with all the emotions. We have tear ducts for a reason. I've heard people apologize for using their tear ducts or denying that they were crying. A couple of months ago, I was shopping for my 2 granddaughters, and I like to shop in the blue section, if you get my meaning, because there I can find t-shirts that say future doctor, future scientist, future explorer. And I was at my local superstore in the Joe Fresh section, in the blue section, when I saw a onesie for a little boy starting at age 3 months that stopped me cold in my tracks. I gathered up all the onesies, held them to my chest, and asked to speak to the manager. When she came over, I explained to her that I need to talk to you. I want to talk to you about these onesies and what's problematic about them. She looked terrified, like something profane had been written on them. And in some way, something profane had. When I turned the onesie around, and keep in mind, for a 3-month-old baby boy, it said, big boys don't cry. So she said to me, what would you like to do? And I said, I would like to have these removed. And she thought for a moment and she said, yes, I agree with you. So I thanked her for the conversation and I left. But then I snuck back later because people will often agree with me, I think because it's quicker, but they never did return. I was working with a teenage boy in my private practice who kept wiping his face and then wiping his hands on his jeans. And as I leaned in closer, I said to him, honey, do you feel like you're crying? And he said, yeah, I am crying. And I said, no, your face is dry. Feel your face. And he did. And he was like, wow, I feel like I'm crying. And I said, is it underneath your skin? And he said, yes. And I said, why do you think it's not coming out? And he thought for a moment and he said, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's because my dad says only a certain kind of boy cries. And when I said, what did your dad mean by that? He proceeded to share a common homophobic slur. Another time I was working with a mom and her little girl. And during the session, the mom started to cry and her daughter asked her why she was crying. And her mom denied that she was crying. So her daughter looked at me and we both nodded like, your face is leaking. And I said to the mom, why don't you want your daughter to know? And she said, because I don't want to upset her. And her daughter said, well, I hear you cry in your room at night. And the mom said, oh, I thought you were asleep. And then I said to the little one, the daughter, what do you think you could do? And she said, well, we could meet in the hall. We have this big old couch and we could cry there together. We are designed to release tears. When I see people in the fullness of their grief, I think that's badass strong. When I see our medical professionals with their masks wet with tears, I think that is badass strong. And every time there is a break, there is a connection. When I hear someone's voice break, when they are releasing their grief, that is connective tissue to me. So I have this wild idea. Let's go out some night when it's dark and the kids are in bed. We don't want to scare anyone. And let's raise our voices, not in song, but in this deep howl, a loud primal howl, and release everything that we've been hiding and holding and just let it out. Letting it out will let in more gratitude, more peace, and more compassion. Hashtag Howl. Hashtag Nova Scotia Badass Strong. Resilience is about how you recharge, not how you endured. I think we've all seen this particular photo of a dandelion pushing through pavement. How does it do it? Dandelions are masters of survival and resilience. Struggle creates resilience. We are not born with it. Our birth into this world is our first struggle. And then there are some very concrete, no pun intended, really pun was intended, specific strategies we can do to build resilience. There's some excellent TED Talks that I really like on resilience. Charles Hunt and his TED Talk is called What Trauma Taught Me About Resilience, and Lucy Horn, The 3 Secrets of Resilient People. So the first of these strategies is reframing. So when you change the frame, you change the focus and you change the feeling. I'm an instructional goddess. Lofty reframe, I know, to being an educator. I'm also a professional reframer. So I'm not using wood, I'm using words. So let me give you an examples of some of my reframes. So I'm not stubborn, I'm determined. I'm not nosy, I'm curious. My grandchildren are not spoiled, they're celebrated. Breakdowns are really breakthroughs. This hair is not gray. It's silver, it's pewter, it's Arctic blonde. Learning disabilities are learning differences. And in the early days of the pandemic, I chanted, I am not stuck at home, I am safe at home. So on your paper now, I want you to write down 2 or 3 descriptors, not positive descriptors, descriptors that have a particularly negative value judgment attached to them that people have written on your forehead, or maybe you have described yourself in a less than loving way. Brene Brown said, what is the story you are telling yourself? So write down those negative descriptors, look at them for a moment, and then see if you can reframe them into a more positive perspective. Okay, so first do it, look at the negatives. What else, what other lens could you view that behavior through whereby it would be a positive reframe? Unfortunately, people usually don't have trouble coming up with these because for whatever reason, as humans, we are much more readily willing to take on negative descriptors than we are to think well of ourselves. So at the end, I'll ask you as a group if anyone had difficulty coming up with a positive reframe. And if you're willing to share, you can tell me what your negative reframe is then, and I'll reframe it for you. It's more than a name game, because when you change this focus, you change how you feel about yourself. You carry yourself in a different way. And everything that I'm talking about today, everybody, I want you to experience it first, and then I want you to teach it. So it's got multiple layers. One of my favorite reframes is I have changed I have to I get to. So I get to get groceries. I get to vacuum my house. I get to put gas in my car. And by saying I get to means I have all those things, and it becomes much more an exercise in gratitude than it does in griping. So gratitude practices have been studied as they relate to both resilience and no surprise, they are highly correlated and effective in promoting and maintaining resilience. Grief and gratitude, something I call G-force, they are also natural companions. And big love equals big grief. Grief is the price we pay for loving, and the gratitude piece is having known that love. So for the next activity, well, let me preface this by saying, before you get to the activity, in moments of despair, when you're weary and bruised to the bone, it's easy to come up with, no, pardon me, it's not easy. It's not easy to come up with your gratitude moments, but that's when you should be leaning into it. When life is rosy, then it's very easy to seek your gratitude practice. So, and in fact, let's reframe gratitude to gratitude. So it is a very comforting practice when you're in the midst of pain to go to the gratitude list. And I'm not suggesting that we deny pain with toxic positivity or, I don't know, blind optimism. I'm suggesting that gratitude makes the grief less jagged and we carry it differently. So now on your paper, under your reframes, write down 3 things you are grateful for right now in this moment. I hope your gratitude list is coming as quickly as your negative descriptors, because we're going to work with both of those. Okay, so I have been witnessing so many acts of compassion between people during this pandemic. However, at the end of the day, your compassion is incomplete if you don't have enough for yourself. So self-care has become this buzzword that we all agree it's important, but what does it really mean? And for me, it's beyond bubble baths and candles. Do those things too, but drill down deeper to the place where the self lives. True self-care is about building a life that you don't have to regularly escape from. It's about forgiving yourself, embracing your imperfections, and loving yourself when you feel the most unlovable. It's about parenting yourself in the way that you should have been parented. At age 61, I am having an awesome childhood. After my first husband died when I was 27, love didn't find me again for 18 years. And I say find me because it wasn't something that I was seeking. I went to university when I was 30 for the first time. I did my 2 degrees back to back. I became conscious as a feminist. I started a catering business to help pay for my degrees because cooking was something I always loved. So do what you love and try to get paid. So I was busy, but in the corner of my eye, love came. And my new love and I, when we moved in together, he had never been married. So he said to me, so what do we do here? Do you want a diamond or something? And I said, no, thank you. I want a bike. So he bought me the most amazing bike. And on that amazing bike, I attached the Bike Bubbler 2000. Bubbles come out this end. This clamps on under my bike seat. It's battery operated. I fill it with bubbles, and I swear I can bike faster with the bubbles coming out the end. And we have some amazing trails in the valley for biking and walking and running, so you never have to be on the road. And only once did I have someone have a negative reaction to the Bike Bubbler 2000. And as I was bubbling past this woman, under her breath, she whispered, but loud enough for me to hear, "Oh my God, get help." And I had to break it to her that I am the help. Most people, it brings them joy, and it is something left over from our childhood. So again, it is never too late to have a great childhood. When it comes to self-care, you want your students, your family, and friends to get the best of you, not what's left of you. So now, on your paper, write down 3 things you would love for someone to do for you. Say for you today, what 3 things would you just love to receive? Okay, has everybody got it? Now look at your list and put a heart next to any items that you could actually do for yourself. Send yourself flowers, write yourself a love letter. I did both those things. I bought myself a button for my jean jacket that says plays well with self, only to be told by my daughter, Mom, you know that means masturbation, right? Which again, I think is very healthy. Self-love, promise to, love yourself first and never to leave you. The first time I sent myself flowers, it was an amazing experience. I went to the florist. I picked out all the flowers I wanted. I wrote on the card, "Dear Sue, sorry I've been neglecting you. I'm going to do better. Love me." I put it in the box, and the florist said, "And how would you like to pay for this?" And I gave her my credit card, and she did it up, and she said, "Now, where are these going?" And I said, "To Sue Smiley," and I gave her my address. And there was what felt like an eternity of silence as she realized this woman is sending flowers to herself. And for a nanosecond, I feared judgment. But when she raised her head, she had this huge smile. And she said, "I'm sending myself flowers later today, too." So again, we can do for ourselves. When you can give to yourself, when you can give yourself a drink, you are never thirsty again. Of course, it's lovely when other people can do it for you, but you have to be able to receive it. So if I was with you in the room, I would ask for a show of hands, who here is an excellent giver? And that room would be filled with hands in the air. Who here is a really uncomfortable receiver? And a lot of those same hands would stay up. When, as a little kid, you learn to give as a survival technique, you also learn to be uncomfortable with receiving. Self-care, self-esteem, self-compassion, they all go together. So I am working on being a better receiver. And one of the ways I work on that is by asking people when I have a need. Don't make people guess. It's not fair. Usually results in disappointment. And this is also an exercise in learning to say what you want. So when you look at your self-care, what you would want someone to do for you, what you can do for yourself, and then what you could ask someone else to do for you. Because expressions like "it is better to give than to receive," I am not a fan of. I am not even a fan of the golden rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the problem with that rule is that it suggests that we're all the same. The platinum rule says do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So how do we do that? By asking people, what is it you need? And being responsive to that by also sharing with them what they need. And the other part of this exercise is when people say, if you're going through something difficult, people like to be practical helpers. They like to be instrumental. So when someone says to you, if there's anything I can do, please let me know, bam, produce the list. People like it. I have done this. And people first are a little taken back because sometimes, unfortunately, when people say, if there's anything you need, let me know, they may not be as sincere as we hope. But for many people, they are sincere. So just be really clear. One of the many lessons in this pandemic is that we do not do well in isolation. We need a community. We need tribal support. We need our home planet peeps. I don't know if I've coined this term, but for me, home planet is people that share core values that I share, that have a similar worldview. And this is my theory, that we come to this planet and we get separated from our home planet people. Then we spend most of our adult life trying to find them again. There are more surface dwellers than home planet. Now, the surface dwellers, they mean well and they're very kind, but they don't know where your planet is. And I think we have all been in the company of people, even though we're not alone, we have felt lonely because they are not our people. So I've said when I've encountered my home planet people, we should have to wear like brightly colored collars or maybe a secret handshake or something so we can identify each other sooner. Dandelions persist through the pavement, but they wouldn't be able to do it without the sun, without the soil, without water. So community care is also a necessary component of resilience and individual self-care as well. So I do something called Joy Bringers. When my sister and I were both young, struggling moms with not much disposable income, we would take each other into stores and point out what we would buy for each other if we had unlimited funds. And we often loved this game more than actually getting the stuff. And that was where the joy was, and in not actually in the getting. Joy has never come from stuff. In fact, the stuff can be a bit of a joy buster. As a grief therapist, I've been at the bedside of many dying people, and no one has ever been comforted by their stuff. It's in the relationships we have fostered and the love that we share that is sustaining. Hearses don't come with U-Hauls. And if any of you write music and sing, or maybe are interested in country music, I'm thinking that would be a kick-ass country music song. Hearses don't come with U-Hauls. And also in the Jewish holy book, it's loosely translated that on Judgment Day, you will be asked to explain for missed opportunities of joy. So joy can come in unexpected places, but also I am looking for opportunities to express joy. So a couple of my actual free joy bringers. You can anonymously decorate a bathroom stall if you work in a place with other people and you have shared bathroom space. I did this recently and I kind of like cheesy. So I made it super cheesy, and it was a single stall bathroom. And so as I walked by the door and people opened the door, I got to hear their comments. Or you may be very classy and you'd like to decorate a bathroom really tastefully. Something unexpected people seem to really enjoy. And the great thing about taking care of yourself and taking care of others is it gets this double whammy. Let someone in front of you in a line. Sure, it's great in traffic. The other day, I had 3 items. I was at Superstore. A lot of my adventures seem to happen at Superstore. I do go to other places. I had 3 items, and the mom in front of me with children dangling off the front of her cart probably had a $200 order, and I insisted she go ahead of me. Oh my God, it felt so good to both of us. I had the time, so I gave her the gift of my time, and she got to get out of the store sooner with her little ones who were just all done. You can declutter your space. the Marie Kondo philosophy of what doesn't bring you joy, kind of get rid of it. My daughter, who is 36, full-time job, 2 kids, very, very busy. The other day, laundry is never cleaned or put away because she just can't keep up with it. So I arranged all her beautiful laundry on the couch into the shape of a tree and put a star on top of it. And we had a really good laugh, whereas previously she might have felt really overwhelmed by that. I write positive messages on Post-it notes and I leave them on public washrooms. There was a gym that I used to work out at. I now belong to a small community gym, but I would put my Post-it notes on things like where people would go to weigh themselves. I would say, don't weigh your self-esteem. I would just do these positive messages. I'd also do it in places where magazines are sold. I'd write things like not a real woman or love yourself more. The thing that's so great about the Post-it notes, as I say, I carry them with me constantly, is you're not defacing any public property. You're not writing anything profane, but you're sharing your thoughts and then other people see them. And that creates this great conversation. I have realized that I cannot turn off teaching. I can turn it down sometimes, but I cannot turn it off. And I had a recent experience at Dollarama where I did an impromptu workshop, a teachable moment, with some men from the Caribbean. We, in the Valley here, we have a large population, thankfully, of immigrant farmers who come here to harvest. Anyway, there was an issue around invasion of personal space, which I believe was a cultural difference, not anything sinister. So we ended up having this workshop in the middle of this aisle, and the guys were super appreciative. There was a misunderstanding. And now when we see each other, we're met with joy and not this feeling of lack of safety. Clean off someone's snow-covered car. I understand we're getting some snow tomorrow. That costs nothing. And can you imagine coming out and someone has cleaned off your car? And if you don't have time to clean off someone's car, maybe you could just do a little heart in the snow. So those are some of my freebies. Some of my other joy bringers, tuck a $5 bill, or I guess with, inflation, make it a 20, into your partner's or your child's coat and wait for them to find it. I'm not a very patient person, so I have been known to say things like, hey, you should try on your winter coat. It looks cold, you should put on your coat. Eventually the person's like, my God, what's in my coat? But times that I can play it cool, and of course I don't tell them it was me, and it's so much fun. I mean, finding $20, it's huge. I tried dropping money behind people in stores, but people are so lovely that they wouldn't. I would say, oh, you dropped this. And they would say, oh, no, that's not mine. And they would turn it in. So I have finally cracked the code so that I can share what I have and other people don't have to share the burden of receiving because it's not always comfortable. I have cracked the code, which I'm going to share with you this afternoon, and you may use it wherever you see fit. So what I do, and sometimes I can tell that it could be somebody who is in need. Other times I can't tell. I just do it. And what I say to that person as I'm about to pay for their order, whatever it happens to be, is I say to them, I've recently come into some money that I didn't earn and I want to share it with you. They are so excited for me that they're like, oh, okay. Now, no one has ever asked me, where did you get this money? They're just so happy for me, and I'm so happy to share it with them, that if I were asked, I think I would say it was an inheritance. And what that inheritance is are my unearned advantages I've had in life, otherwise known as privileges. Oh, I forgot one of my freebies. If you work with an IT team, IT people, the whole thrust of their job is troubleshooting. Nobody ever calls them with good news. So I did this. I called my IT guys And I said, hi, it's Sue. I just wanted to let you know my computer is working great. The technology in the classroom, the smart board is like so good. And there's like a pause at the end of their end of the phone. And they're like, was there something else? And I'm like, no, I just wanted to tell you that everything is working so great and to thank you so much for keeping all this equipment going. That got followed by some nervous laughter on their end. And then another question of, are you sure everything's okay? Yes, everything's great. And I hung up, right? So when I say look for missed opportunities for joy, they are super easy to find. The difference is we need to step into them. So we've talked about gratitude, otherwise known as gratitude. We've talked about reframing. I learned the power of reframing personally, and then I started taking it into teaching, and then I started taking it into my private practice. I was walking down the hall one day with a colleague, back in the days when you could walk down the hall, and the floor had just been redone. And the tile, we both looked at the tile, and I said, oh, wow, stepping stones. And my colleague said, oh, yeah, stumbling blocks. We both had the same image, and we looked at it differently. And it really does change your worldview. Again, the gratitude, start it first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed. Be grateful for the clean bed you're on, the sheets. Be grateful that you woke up in Canada. We are not without our woes, but we have so much to be grateful for. I'm grateful that I can get up and go to the washroom unassisted. I have my independence. I'm blown away by how much I have. And I have certainly, in times of great grief, leaned into my gratitude list, and it has helped me big time. So let's go back to you. So I said I built in lots of time, and because I wanted this, so desperately wanted this to be a conversation and not me talking to myself. So I'd like to know, it's your turn now. What did you come to learn that you didn't hear about, because I want to build that in? Did you have any reframes that you, or any descriptors that you couldn't come up with reframes for? And anything else you'd like to share? So over to you. Hello?
Anyone can turn on their video or turn on their mic at any time to talk now. I'm wondering if people might be more willing to share if we stop recording now. Should we do that or continue?
I can pause the recording.
It might, like if we're going to